Hey, Tim.
Hi, Vince. Got it. Okay. Hmm. I enjoyed your story, the song with the explanation, and it took me back to my childhood, vague as the memories are. And yeah, it was just a feeling, really, that it evoked. Definitely. That's good.
Mm. So it must have triggered something for you, a memory or a feeling or.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing, I think the earliest experience I had that relates to it that I can remember was that I'd had a falling out with a friend. I must have been about 14 or 15, and we played in a band together and wrote, and we'd had an argument about something. And I remember him coming round to chat, and there was just, after a brief, could be distorted, but after a brief discussion, there was just this silence and complete understanding that everything was okay and it just didn't matter. And it was I felt sense of that, and that's the first thing I can remember.
Mm.
Like time stood still, and it was just this, and
Yeah.
yeah, that was one thing. I think because of the interim years of seeming struggle and suffering, that they tend to be like vignettes of those tend to be the ones I remember. They're like snapshots, but because it was some years, but
Mm.
it's just dissolved
Yeah.
largely, and
So it's
yeah.
interesting that your memory appeared as a feeling.
Yeah, it did. I mean, it does. Yeah, currently, yeah.
We tend to think of memory always as mental and a narrative or a movie of
Yeah,
something.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I tend not to get movies anyway. But there is a snapshot of in my mind of the two of us facing each other in front of my wardrobe in my bedroom.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's very, very flimsy. It's very kind of translucent, lucent, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, of course, when we realize or remember that memory is always a reconstruction.
yeah,
So it's obviously we're not pulling out something that was filed away in its entirety. Then it comes from different parts of the brain. So there's the memory of the sound and the memory of the sight and the memory of the tactile and so on. And we kind of reconstruct it, put it back together in a way that obviously is never exactly like it was, but the essence is there.
yeah. That's it, really, isn't it? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hello, Rod. Oh,
Hello. I think I'm operational here. I've got all sorts of funny windows coming up.
Oh, well, we can hear you and see you.
That's good. It's your lucky day.
Yeah, it is. Mm.
I seem to have there's some confusion about whether you're supposed to be starting this Zoom at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock for us UK people.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what it would be in London uh, at 10 p.m. It's your 11 a.m.
Yes, it's 11.
Yeah, so that's the correct time as we
Okay.
yeah. It used
I'm
to be an
gonna,
hour earlier, but then it got put back an hour a few weeks ago. Yeah.
okay, that's good.
Mm.
I've sent you both presents today.
Yes, I got your book. I haven't looked at it yet, but I did get it. Thank you.
I sent the
Uh,
same one to Tim.
All right.
you
Okay.
haven't. I had a quick peek at mine and went to the website that's on there.
Right.
And can I be brutally honest?
Yeah,
Well,
go
not
on.
brutally.
So I didn't catch that. You were going
No,
to
I
be
just.
brutally honest,
I,
but I didn't hear anything from after that.
no, I haven't said anything. I might have inhaled sharply to
Oh,
prepare. To prepare. So it's funny that you should send that kind of structured thing, because I was thinking the other day about the fetters, and then
yeah,
about any maps that may exist about whatever this journey might hold for us if we're, quotes, past a certain stage, looked at in a linear way. And I've
yeah,
fallen so foul of that because of the way my mind, I was going to say, worked in the past, that it just produced an "am I there yet" thought, and
yeah,
various subsections like, oh, so and so looks, they say that, and all that bullshit story. So I have, dare I say, a kind of aversion when I see something structured like that, a bit like the bridge in the old place, you know.
yeah, yeah. The old,
Yeah,
good
like
old,
going up and, yeah, are we OT yet? Are we there yet? Thank you,
yeah,
Ron. So, and all that. But so I thought, prior to seeing your document, I thought it feels better for me, as I am now, to just let things unfold, because in the past, expectations have been quite murderous, as well, exaggerating. They've really got in the way.
yeah,
And I, my sense is that if these things that are described are going to come up, they will. They may not at all. Everyone's path, as you know, is very, very different. Um, and to think that there's meaning imbued, given to any of those, for me, is again mad, because I've done it before. That's why. And then the last thing is, when I went to the website, it did remind me of a kind of org situation, you know, the websites
yeah,
that they have, and with all the, we have a roster of teachers, you might be, you know, qualified or whatever it is, you know. I
yeah.
thought, for fuck's sake, that's what I thought. Whenever I see like licensed or, you know, accredited, I just think bollocks. I'm sorry, it's not personal, right? I'm just speaking my mind.
Yeah, I think
I'll get.
that interestingly
I'll
enough,
stop
I
there.
had this. I had the same immediate reaction when I looked at that website.
Okay.
But then I did a little bit more investigation, and basically that website is that lady's business,
Right.
right? But she's got other websites as well. Also, if you look at her, she's got a YouTube channel. And she's got basically she is someone who is basically giving stuff away for free. You know, like she's following the Buddhist ethos in her sort of should we say, you know, like what she's trying to do on her website, which is it's a bit kind of commercialized, and you know, it's not sort of friendly, folksy sort of stuff. But her other websites, she's got a few other websites that are. And
Sure.
also, um, she mentions that she had a spontaneous awakening, which I've yet to hear what happened to her, but I suspect probably it was something, you know, it was a sort of Feta One type thing, which brings us back to the maps. Um,
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, you know, I can understand the problem with maps, or there can be problems, can't they? But because there's quite a lot of variation in how different people experience things.
Yeah.
But um, but you can, in general, you can say, well, there's a there's a kind of shift of identity of some sort, right? And that's pretty much general, and that applies to kind of all of the stages, really. It's a shift of identity. In other words, you discover who you're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah, no, yeah, I can see that, and I can see the value for others. Maybe me later. I don't know, but in maps, but right now, not, and not another YouTube channel. I because I've been there so often, and all the, it's all useful. That there are going to be people who find benefit anywhere, even if they find out that they think it's been a waste of time for them.
yeah.
But I'm quite happy plodding along as is.
Yeah, I mean, I
I
still
do
find it
appreciate you
you.
thinking though.
So,
They're gone.
yeah, okay.
Mm.
I do. I think I find it helpful reading, sort of like a variety of these different books.
Mm-hmm.
Because perhaps even if you don't, sort of agree with them, well, that's helpful in a way as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I've kind of, strangely enough, I pledged to myself that I'd like to be open-minded. I think I am, but I'm also, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe I'll pop back there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
thank you again.
There was I mean, as just to continue on the same lady, she's done another book which is called The Path to Wellbeing, which is like for me, it's a really interesting book because, it's what I'm trying to do with my little group that I run here. And what she's done in that book is sort of quite different. She's taken basically it is very structured as well. She's taken all the levels of development, that have been identified by sort of mainstream psychology and the sort of far reaches of psychology like Ken Wilber and various people like that. And she's put together a thing to allow people to sort of figure out where they are on these development stages, which you probably go, oh no. But yeah, I think it is helpful, and more importantly, she gives kind of like practices for people to like improve their position on these various at these various levels, and investigations and kind of various sort of practices and things. So I'm definitely going to be having a go at that book. And I'm going to introduce it at our next meeting on the 16th this month. And they'll probably go, oh no, not any more new stuff. Anyway.
Yeah, no, well, that'd be interesting to hear how you get on. I mean, as far as groups go, I mentioned we have a small group. I haven't been able to introduce, I've been able to introduce almost nothing that people click with, apart from that time by chance that I did the Walensky inquiry that we mentioned. And one person, because she said, I can't meditate, she just went silent. And so then she kind of took up a form of self-inquiry instead. So one person benefited after all these years, So I've kind of given up. It's almost more a social thing now. We've known each other for years. And yeah.
Well, that's quite nice as well, isn't it?
Of course, yeah, it is. It became nicer when I stopped judging people, obviously, thinking that they might benefit from anything I was into. Which, why should they? So I got off that one, and it was much better.
Vince has been doing this stuff for quite a long time and probably has a few wise words to give us about it.
Well, you know that anything comes out of my mouth is a lie, don't you?
Well,
As ours.
that sounds pretty universal, really.
That's the wisest thing I can think of. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, but
look, yeah, go on.
I was say you've been actually guiding people though on an individual basis, haven't you?
Sure. Yeah.
And I mean that must be quite a good learning experience. I could imagine doing that.
Yeah. What came to mind as you guys were talking about that was essentially a reflection on both my own experience, awakening experience, and on others. And the conclusion I come to is I got no idea about levels, about how it worked and what happened, you know. So, I mean, if you've heard my awakening story on several occasions, I imagine.
Yeah,
You know, I couldn't find a place on the Feta group, on the Feta model, to put that awakening. You know, like what Feta is it when I suddenly realised that this is it, and that there's seemingly a a total acceptance of whatever interpretation I put on my perception. But see, that's the narration about my awakening. The actual experience is something else, not clean, not clear, not what actually happened. What was my experience in the days and years following that? And I've been all over the shop. I've definitely, when just a couple of weeks after that waking up episode, when I went to Liberation Unleashed, I discovered Liberation Unleashed and thought, these people might be able to tell me what happened. And the first thing they did was ask me about self. And I went, it's obvious that self is just a story. I hadn't even thought about it up until that moment. Never occurred to me that there was a self or not a self or anything about that until I was asked. And then it
yeah,
became obvious that self is just a story. It wasn't that there was no self, it was that there is an illusion of self created and maintained by stories.
yeah,
And the second question they asked me that was rather interesting was, is an experiencer necessary for experiencing to happen? And again, it was obvious that experiencing was everything. That in order to find an experiencer, I had to interrupt the experience of experiencing.
well, you need to add something to it, really, didn't you? That's how.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Add
Yeah,
something to the experiencing. Yes. So then of course I've had people that come into this. So obviously everybody's already got a history. They've already got, if they're on this spiritual path, they've been through, various contemplations and various experiences and so on to be on the spiritual path, and presumably they all have expectations about what it will be like, because that's part of their motivation, isn't it, to experience either a cessation of suffering or to acquire cities or whatever their expectation is in the first place. So they've already had various experiences that they bring to the table, so to speak, for that. So where do we go from there? Well, it seemed to me pretty obvious that we have to start wherever they are. And if a self is not an issue, if their suffering is the issue, then when we start to look in detail at what their suffering is, then identification very quickly rears its head, doesn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
so then that, but we don't even need to talk about identification. We just need to talk about what's going on that triggers this suffering. So yeah, I don't see. I mean, I did the website that I did, and a lot of that came out of the Liberation Unleashed experience. But you see, you can't write a book without having a beginning, a middle, and an end. And so there's going to be structure, isn't there? You can't, how can you write a book and not have structure? It's not possible.
It can be a bit confusing when reading such a book.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I mean, to presume that everybody starts at the beginning and has a linear experience that they can call progress or movement in towards something doesn't really make a lot of sense here. It's like everybody's going to come in at their own level and expand in all directions from that. It seems to
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I suppose in a way, both Tim and myself have been exposed to a kind of hierarchy type of system, in Scientology, which we both are familiar with, where they had a sort of the grade chart, I think it was called, and you had to go in, you start at life repair, I think it was, which was basically to sort of handle any sort of real problems and upsets that you've got, like handle those first. Um, and then that first step, by the way, might have included things like where you've got to, disconnect from this person who's being, very, unpleasant to you, or change your job because it's unethical, or whatever it might have been. That all that stuff was called life repair. And then we went through other things. I think it was the communication level first, like how do you, what can I, what is it okay to communicate about and with whom, and all these sort of things, fixing up our communication abilities. That was quite a good level for me. Trying to remember what happened next. What was the next one, Tim? I can't remember. Was it problems or ARC breaks?
I was going to add my disclaimer.
Oh,
Viewer,
okay.
at no point was I a Scientologist. I just had to put that little thing in there as a
Yeah,
kind
but
of
you were
joke.
doing
But
a sort of
yeah, but
bootleg.
I didn't do it in the linear way. I saw it laid out that way, but the way Bill, the guy I was with, he was more to do with present time problems. A lot of his auditing was to do with that. We did do a comms course,
Yeah,
communication course. I found that really useful.
yeah, I
And
did
the
that.
idea of not is, oughter is, as is, that really makes sense, all that sort of stuff. But my point, so interrupting your flow a bit, is that I would apply, it wasn't to do with just that map that was laid out. That was my whole getting their modus operandi was my modus operandi. That's how I saw things in a very heady way, and comparison was those ingredients made it very, very painful. You know, even if there wasn't a structure, but if there was, and it implied a getting there, that compounded the problem. But I get what you're saying. I mean, some of the stuff was really useful, but I didn't approach it probably in the quite in the linear way that you did.
Yeah.
But I know how that can be. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, it was interesting that how sort of individual sessions were started commonly was doing the rudiments, they used to call them. You know, like,
Yeah.
do you have an
Get them in, yeah.
ARC break? Do you have a
That's right. Yeah.
present time problem?
Yeah.
Was there someone missed a withhold or something like that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And that was just sort of like handling the whatever happened to show up at that time with that person, which I think was
Yeah.
quite a good way.
I think that was useful. Yeah. Yeah.
So, don't you wish you'd been in Scientology, Vince?
But we're not a very good at. No, sorry. You're probably a better advert than I am for it, Rod, because you really did it.
I did it,
And it
yeah.
does. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, in the linear structured way.
Yeah.
But it did appeal to a lot of people. Did you say you were an engineer by what's the
Yes,
word?
but well, basically electronics I was trained in.
Right. Yeah, because you fix the meters and stuff. But I've noticed that not all, but a lot of people who are involved in Scientology had that kind of mindset, if you want to call it a mindset, or disposition. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
it
I think
appealed.
that's right.
Anyway, this is a sort of potted history of yeah. Yeah. Okay.
See, in a way, that outlook it sort of aligns with Buddhism
Yeah. Some presentations of it. Yeah. That's
because
true. Yeah.
you know it's like everything has its causes and conditions, and kind of an engineer has to think that way as well. You know, and
Yeah.
if it doesn't work, there's something, you know, like some of the ingredients have gone wrong, or you know,
Yeah.
whatever. You get out your AVO meter, as I used to use in those days, and probe around and find out what it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. But you see, I don't know how you mean, but I see causes and conditions I don't know if it's in a different way, that everything is affected by everything else. Like it's just a million and one things. And for me, that's it. You know,
Yeah,
there are no, it's like, you know, when they do a session on whatever it was, like, you know, and you'd find out, oh, it's my mum. Have you got a date for that? Yes, good. And all that sort of thing. That's just kind of chipping up to me. It's too narrowed down. It's chipping away at a little fragment of yeah, and there was an hour in the month, and oh, my uncle Ron had come round, and we just
yeah,
got a
but that
cat who was
I I I would just kind of disagree with that because
okay.
in you know when you start sort of auditing people, you
Yeah,
do find that you know, like a person will go like in Dianetics, it's very obvious in Dianetics. You go through, you know, do you have, you find the person has sort of like a pain in their knee or whatever it is.
hmm
You know, that's the thing that reads on the meter.
hmm
And you ask them, is there an earlier time when you had this pain in the knee? Oh, yes, it was when I fell off my bike, you know. But the meter
hmm
doesn't do much, you know, it gives a little bit of whatever.
yeah,
And then you go through earlier ones and like sort of stuff that happened to this bloke's knee, and even stuff that happened to other people's knees as well comes
yeah,
up as
yeah,
um,
yeah. Well, yeah,
and then you might find, in fact, you can find sort of situations where it wasn't his knee, it was someone else's knee.
yeah, That's
And
true. Yeah.
there was a kind of like mistaken identity thing or something weird like that happened. But
Yeah.
eventually,
I get that. Yeah. But sorry,
but
carry on.
these occur in a chain, and when you get to the bottom one on the chain, the whole lot
Mm.
blows.
Yeah. You see, to me, that, okay, this could get into a rather long digression, but yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
And it does. You see it on the meter. You get the
Yeah.
floating needle,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the good indicators.
I
Oh,
just,
oh yeah,
yeah, I was talking about the bigger picture. Really, it's just like it's to me, it's the wonder of it. It's like I can't really describe it actually. It's like, yeah, I can't articulate it. To me, it's just this weird dance of God knows what that goes on. I can't.
yeah.
I see what you're saying, but now I just feel as I've just described. It's not right or wrong. It's just what my take is or experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Vince? Like when when you're sort of coaching people or whatever the correct term you use, um, do you find that like when a person while you're doing these things, they have realizations about it, might be, well, I've just noticed I've been seeing things in the, some different way or whatever, or I you know, my mother was just like that, or just something that the person has realised that what's
Yeah,
sort of causing their condition, and
yeah.
with something like that, usually you get a bit of a grin or a smile or a laugh or
Some kind of reaction. Yeah, yeah.
or
So
perhaps
I'm
a
interested. That meter that you're talking about, was that just a galvanic skin response meter?
yes, that's all it is. The E
Mm.
meter.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
a
So you
resistance
you were
meter.
you were looking for the way I would describe that in terms of how I view things is you're seeing what triggers something in somebody.
That's right. Yeah, because
And
it
the media
triggers in.
shows that when you probe and talk about and whatever, when you get to something that's obviously a belief about something, although you could describe it in a whole lot of ways, right? Once I would have described it as a muscle memory, an unconscious bodily held memory about something,
Yeah,
um, and so on. So these days, I don't see it's changed for me. I used to see it that way, when we call it shadow work, so stuff that's held at an unconscious level. Um, as a result of early conditioning, usually traumatic conditioning. Um, Now I don't no longer see the body as a container for those things, but what the way I conceptualize it now is that these things only exist in us as potential until they are triggered. So they can be not triggered, and therefore there's no evidence of them until they're triggered, or they could be something that is, um, how to put it, it could be something that's chronic, that it's like there's a low level constant triggering of it. Um, that could also be the case. Uh, but the juice for me is that all of these things exemplify a belief we have about ourselves,
yeah,
and that when they are activated, they will cause suffering, albeit physical or psychological, emotional, whatever, however you want to describe it. And I don't really see a difference between those. because even emotional suffering has a physical element, and all physical aspects have an emotional element. So we don't separate those things. But yeah, I get that it could be good, except that I also see it as promoting the illusion of control and doership and victimhood as well. That's a big one, because we are looking for things outside of ourselves to blame for whatever is going on in us, whether it's early conditioning, whether it's mother or whatever it is. We're looking for something out there, and so that's we're not we're not accepting that it's in us now when we do that. So I would see that as a negative to doing it that way.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're using an e-meter though, it's basically it allows you to discover what the triggers are and what's the biggest triggers and what ones don't really do very much
Mm.
because they alter the reaction, and you don't need to even, the person doesn't even need to say anything. You can do what was called listing and nulling, where there would be, I'd say, like a list of people, um, and you can just sort of read them out, and you'll see you get reads, and then when you cut to the item, it goes boing,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
that's the one I got to
Juice there.
run.
Yeah, yeah, there's juice in that one. Yeah, yeah.
I I used to be involved in kinesiology, muscle testing, and it was started. Have you heard of Dr. John Diamond? He was an Australian MD who he did the book The Body Doesn't Lie years ago, muscle testing.
Remember that title? Yeah.
Yeah, and my wife and I were students of his. I mean, I won't go into the backstory, but he showed us really, and this isn't the same as your technology, Rod, how easy it is to weight the balance of the results and to bias the results of the tests. The other problem with that was, and this is just not quite like what went on in your case, Rod, is that you would, for example, be shown a photo of Hitler and your muscles, your chi, he used to put it on the meridian system, would weaken, would be blocked, and the strong muscle would go weak. And he put someone else, like, I don't know who it would be, not Mother Teresa, but whoever it was, and he'd be strong. So it got really into kind of duality, and people were going around. We used to go around avoiding certain foods, and it got really mad in the end. And my wife and I left, and it actually became a little bit cult-like because I won't go into that. It just did. Um, but for me, it was a great learning experience about duality. I thought, why do we want to go around testing all these things when we actually want to transcend them and be at the top of the triangle or the fulcrum, rather than these ever-changing poles?
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, that whole era was an extremely sound lesson for both my wife and myself. She didn't need it as usual, often, but I did. Yeah. Anyway.
yeah. I think there's a bit of a reluctance on people to um, admit that their problems might have some kind of psychological cause.
Mm. Mm.
You know, um,
Yeah.
and how you think can give you suffering and pain, even,
Mm.
so they'd rather go to the doctors and get a pill.
There is that, and there's also something that Vince said, that often when people, I've noticed that when people, quotes, take responsibility, then guilt can kick in. Like, well, this model says that if I change my thoughts or beliefs or let go of them, my cancer will go. But mine hasn't, but theirs did. And they were in the same group. What gives? And for me, that's fraught with that sort of, only because of my conditioning of expectations and that kind of, oh, they got this, but where's mine? Sort of thing. But yeah, it's something. It's better than being a complete victim, isn't it? It's, if you want to
Yeah,
put it again in steps, it, I guess it is better than that.
yeah, yeah. I think
But
it
you see,
is.
the whole that to me now, the whole thing is, it hinges upon identity. All these are based on a force, an assumption of an identity.
Yeah,
All of this is part of that world, and I think the problem is that I think what Vince does well is he can tune into where someone's at. A lot of Vince doesn't say as a teacher, but let's say facilitator. He wouldn't say that either, I don't think. But whoever, that they don't, that either it's not part of the way they operate, or they don't maybe even have the experience or skill to do that. And I think for me, that's the beauty of this here, rather than someone saying all the time saying, so who is the one who's saying that? As I said before, I get that, and that can be really useful if that really works for that person. But it may go tits up. Sorry, if it's the wrong time. It couldn't be a wrong time, but do you know what I mean? It's like there was an example of someone I listened to one of Vince's earlier calls uh, yesterday, and there was someone who was like really banging away at that, and Vince very carefully steered things away from that, saying that this person's probably, paraphrasing, this person's probably had enough of being harangued, and they're not going to get it. But I don't know how you phrase it, Vince, but it completely made sense. It was someone on this like track of, yeah, but who's the one? And it wasn't appropriate. But there you go. But then they may have learned from that as well. I don't know. Everyone gets what they need. I've it seems, whatever that is.
yeah.
Hi, Jeremy.
Hello.
You're in the twilight zone.
It's
Oh
early
no, it's
here.
bright. Yeah,
We were discussing Rod's and Tim's varying experiences with Scientology and other modalities.
Hmm.
There,
I'm glad I'm still not. I'm not involved with it and haven't been for a long time.
and I'm glad I wasn't as deeply as I could have been. But I'm
Yeah.
grateful for the experience I had.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, that we got very different experiences of it. Like, because for me, it was kind of basically okay up until like Hubbard wasn't running things, and then it
Yeah,
turned into a complete dog's dinner.
yeah.
so was that the reason that you finished with them, Rod?
No, not that wasn't really. Well, it was. It was the sort of spontaneous awakening was a probably the real key because like what I'd been trying to fix up with Scientology wasn't there anymore. Right. So it was kind of pointless to do. I mean, I still probably the biggest problem or difficulty for me was I had so many friends that I'd made in Scientology, and they have this thing. Well, if you're not going to be a Scientologist, then you have to disconnect from anyone who's left. So I lost a whole stack of friends, like 20 years worth of friends, which was a bit disappointing. But the finals, so there was that part of, that kind of realization that the person I'd been trying to fix up wasn't there to be fixed up anymore. Um, but apart from that, it was, like, because they still want you to keep on, like trying to find something that's not there.
So would you
Which
say that
is,
it had taken you as far as it could?
I think so. I think so, because that they've got the upper OT levels, which you're supposed to gain certain special abilities and all this, that, and the other.
Oh,
Which,
cities. Okay.
well, which I didn't find anyone who could do these things. There was kind of like reports, but it was never ever confirmed for me.
Right.
But definitely, I did see that it could make very great improvements to people. That I will give it, and particularly probably the most notable example that I saw of it was, there was a guy that I introduced to Scientology, and he went down to Tottenham Court Road, and he did the communication course, which is like a cheap course. It used to cost about a fiver, and you sat there. You had to sort of like, the first part of it was you just sat across from someone, and you had to be able to sit there for 2 hours, which was quite a hard job actually. And then the next step was that you had to sit still there and not react while someone was what they call bull baiting you, like trying to get you to react. And so it went on along the same things. And when someone had done that course thoroughly, you did really gain quite a lot of ability to confront things and people that you didn't have before. You even got a kind of a city with it. I noticed that after I'd done it, before I'd done it, I'd go in a shop and I'd be the last one. This is a time when there wasn't really any supermarkets. You went in a shop and queued up, to get served. I don't know if you guys remember those sort of times.
Yeah.
And so it would always be that you ended up to be the last one served, somehow or other, someone got in front of you or whatever. But anyway, after doing that course, I found that I would go in the shop and I'd get to be the first one who got served. Like sort of like I was kind of more present in some sense or another that connected with the serving person. It was quite fun.
So would you say that I answered my own question immediately. Obviously, that your experience with Scientology were significant conditions to your spontaneous awakening.
I think so, yes, because I'd done lots of, investigating all the bad things that happened to me and all the good things that happened to me and all the bad things I've done to other people and the bad things they've done to me, like for like years of it. And I think that does get rid of quite a lot of shadow material, or what we call shadow material nowadays. And probably, sort of having gotten rid of a load of that stuff, it makes it easier to sort of access certain ways of thinking that might not have been available prior to that.
Yeah, yeah. So with the group that you run, do you have a structure in mind, a linear progression that you um, offer to the
Well,
participants?
it's kind of. It's a bit sort of hit and miss at the moment because it started off as a meditation course, well, not a course exactly, a group, and
Mm.
I suggested like various types of meditation. And it turns out that quite a lot of sort of old buggers like us aren't very keen on sitting for hours doing meditation. So from that, I went on to, well, let's try doing some Theta One work, and using Christiane Michelberger's book, which we're kind of still working on that, but I'm running into sort of another problem, which is that there's so many sort of psychological issues that people have got, about, well, I can't, I'm not that kind of person. I can't do these things. I'm not technical. I don't understand my phone, and the computer's a mystery to me. And I don't really like to work hard on all of these things. Like at my age, I should be able to take it easy and watch the telly. So that's the kind of problem I'm trying to deal with. And that's why I'm still sort of like looking around for books like this one that I mentioned earlier on, the path to well-being, which I'm hoping, because it handles some of the or doesn't handle, but it kind of gives like a whole list of all the sort of 8 development stages as per the enlarged version of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which you might have known about, and sort of practices to try and sort of handle problems we might have at those levels. So I haven't actually tried that yet, but that's why I'm going to introduce at the next meeting. See what happens.
So presumably there's something about the fact that you've got these people that continue to come to these meetings.
Yeah.
Would you say that there's a common motivation there of some kind?
I think there is. I mean, it's got to be, some sort of self-improvement idea of some kind. Or it could be, well, this could be very entertaining, and that Rod Smith would, he's really weird,
Mm.
he keeps coming out with all this stuff, but it's very interesting, that kind of attitude. But who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, I feel I need to do my best for these people.
Yeah. And you will, of course.
I will. I will. Yeah, whether I'll be successful or not's another matter.
Yeah, that's out of your control, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Tim, with your group of people, you say that it's kind of evolved into more or less just a social gathering. Um, do you find opportunities to slip any of this stuff into them? You know what I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the closest I've got to doing it is they always ask me to do a short guided meditation at
Right.
the beginning. And I've managed on a couple of occasions to do some variation on the unfindable. Can you find the person who's even experienced any of this? Or I'll mix the words up a bit. And the feedback is usually either that was weird, but not in a bad way, presumably, or they'd say, I felt like running from the room. They don't. Or it went quiet. I went quiet. my body warmed up. They'll describe a symptom, and I just leave it at that, really. But the problem I've had has been, as is often the case with my wife, I would have given up these meetings a long time ago if she hadn't have said, "No, they're old friends, and we should," because I wanted to move on. I felt it was I wanted to move on, and I couldn't even say how I possibly could be of any use there. But she said, even when you sit there and shut up, probably better when you do. People seem to enjoy you being there, and I just take her word for it. But I've had to kind of augment my experience by coming to groups like this, and now particularly this group has been invaluable for me because it's quotes where I'm at, truly. And I used to feel a bit of resistance some weeks to go into the meetings, or we hold them here. We alternate between a neighbour's house and here. But that's digressed from your original question a bit. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, I've had to be careful with not putting my foot in it, I think. I'm a little bit wary of that.
You mean by going too far?
Yeah, or appearing to oppose someone. I mean, again, I'm going on my wife's, it's her perception, it may be others, said you can get a bit intense sometimes and you look a bit saturnine or fierce when you sort of lean forward a bit, like old
Yeah.
Nick,
Yeah.
old Git.
And your horns pop out.
Yeah, the whole lot, the tail. And I said I can't do anything about that. It's just
Mm.
Um, but that did. I don't know if it triggered me, but it did make me a bit more cautious. I said, "It's a shame because I don't think I'm really like that." She said, "No, you're not, but you can appear to be in those moments when you get passionate. It can be a bit intense." So I put this kind of. It doesn't feel like suppression, but it feels like just aware of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But going just one more thing, because like Anton and Jeremy have been sitting there patiently listening to that. What I've found is that I've always been passionate about this sort of thing. And I've probably mentioned it before, but the number of times I've tried to get things going that I thought would be a great idea, the universe has said, nah, sorry, it's not happening. And for years and years, I've been doing that. And I thought maybe, and I sort of thought, again, in a sort of limited linear way, thinking that, well, surely, that because I've been interested, this is a passion of mine something would show up. And then in the end, I thought, why should it? How do you know? And that shut me up, or
Mm.
that whole line of train of thought. So I've shut up more now and just wait. Could be anything could happen and probably will. So, yeah, anyway, thank you.
Yeah. Have
I'm
you
sure
thought
that,
of using your fellow countrymen's any of his early stuff? Would they
you,
be interested in
you
that?
mean, you mean, you mean Rodney? Rod? Oh, Rodney. Is that
No,
who you mean, Rod?
the man with your accent. What's his name?
And that's the white shirt, the pristine, expensive shirt.
Um,
Do you mean?
I haven't got a shirt.
Sorry, have I got a shirt?
Well, actually, I've got one
No,
under
not
this
you.
thing.
No, no. Who did you mean, Vince? Are you trying not to mention name names
no,
or
no, I
not?
can't. I've got a memory block on his name.
You don't mean Rupert, do you?
No, no, the fellow with the same accent as you. We're going back to the 60s.
I, I don't know. Oh, what
Well,
was he into?
yeah, he was into all this stuff. He brought
Oh,
stuff.
not. Oh,
Alan
not
Watts.
Terry.
Who?
Alan Watts.
Alan Watts, that's the man. Yeah, that's who
Yeah,
I.
he was a bit posher. Yeah.
Yeah.
But oh, you mean? Sorry, what was the actual question? Have I thought of bringing
So,
anything from?
yeah, yeah, using some of his stuff with your group.
Yeah, he's very. I've used it. and he's very popular, particularly
He's
if you've
great
got
because
recordings. If you've got
yeah,
recordings of it, you can
I
play.
don't think I'd get permission to do that from She Who Must Be Obeyed.
Right. That would be.
Unless I got special dispensation, I said, "Hey, Vince thought it was a great idea." No, I wouldn't do that. No.
Yeah.
I like his stuff, but
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. I don't know. Is the answer. I just don't know. I do enjoy this. I mean, I used to be hooked on techniques, Rod. Like, you know, some of them were derivatives, as I said, from the old place. And they're good. They work with identities mainly, like Identics did, you know. Um, and you dissolve that identity, but it doesn't grab me anymore. It's like I could do
Mm.
it. I didn't have many punters, but I could do it. But anyone can run through a series of questions, I think, as long as they've got TR0 in. Yeah, confront. Yeah.
Mm.
Anyway, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
If you get any inspirations, let me know. Or if I do, I'll let you know.
Yeah. Well, I think your guided meditations are a great opportunity. Yeah, when people go quiet, or when they have a physical response to that is pleasant,
Yeah,
that's it's easy for them to say that's because of that guided meditation, but it's your
yeah.
opportunity to offer them the possibility that it's their response to the guided meditation that caused that, not the guided meditation itself.
That's a really good point. I think you mentioned that to someone the other day. Recently, I can't remember. Yeah,
Mm.
you did. And that would be not like good for me, but because I now, like I said, you know, it's not to do with the voice. Like people used to say, it's got nothing to do with that. How could it? Because it's their perception. How could it be? It could be Alan Watts or anyone, or Charlie Farnsbarns from down the road.
Yeah, but without doubt, certain tonality, certain
Yeah, yeah,
whatever
yeah,
would have
yeah.
an
That's
effect.
true.
Yeah.
I mean, there are yeah. I mean, there's a friend. Have you heard of Joe Dispenza?
Yes.
You know, he does all these. Yeah. Well, our friend from the group said she really likes his stuff, but she can't listen to him narrating the guided meditations. And there's a colleague of his. She said, I just have to turn it off because they just like. Anyway, yeah. So, but yeah.
So is she responding to the length of his meditations or his tone?
No, it's the voice tonality.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, some people do with the length of those things because our attention spans generally seem to be
Mm.
diminished somewhat. But yeah, it's the voice. So yeah, we'll
The
see.
voice.
I'm
Sorry.
see. No, go
So I
on.
think the voice. I agree with you. The voice does have quite something to do with it. Like having from the
Yeah,
times when I used to do a lot of guided meditations from Rupert Spira and various other people, and I
yeah,
found it definitely helpful to have
yeah.
someone with an English accent and not too sort of strident and squawky like some of the Americans.
I wonder if Jeremy's got anything to say about that, about your fellow countrymen and women or people
Uh,
Or
the
or
only, I
anything.
guess, what comes to mind is that I have found that there are certain, I've listened to a lot of audio guided meditations over the years, a lot of different people, and there are, I guess I'm trying to even think about how, there's certainly, I think it's when someone speaks in just an everyday conversational tone, that's what seems to resonate more with me versus when, how do I describe it? It's like really soft and whispery, and maybe it
Mm.
seems like you might be picking up what I'm laying down in terms of their tone.
Yeah. I
Um,
think it becomes
it,
performative, even if it's not
yes,
whispery. It
thank you.
becomes, and you get people who narrate books who would probably want to be actors, and they become over theatrical. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Even when they're not
You,
voicing a character, they'll say, "One day," it's like I don't know, blah.
yeah, the performative word
It's a
really,
performative thing. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And
and it's difficult. Yeah, yeah.
I struggle with it because on one hand, um, it's challenging for me to participate in the meditation. Um, but then there's part of me that's bothered by like, what is it? What is it in my conditioning uh, that is being triggered by this? Like, why is this so uncomfortable for me to listen to? And um, it
I
hasn't
mean,
been enough for me to continue doing it. Um, but
I mean, sorry, go on. I'm sorry.
I've even had you know, awakening related teachers or content where um, simply the tone of someone's voice has been enough for me to not engage because it feels too performative, like you said.
Mm,
I want to hear something in normal
yeah,
conversational tone
yeah,
instead
yeah,
of pretending like this is something else.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, you used to get a lot of that in New Age stuff, like sort of the self-whispered meditation, and you will soon feel very, or like self-hypnosis stuff, or particularly with people who deal with the angelic realms or something like that. You get kind of, I don't know. I'm just being a bit biased and
Yeah.
cynical, but yeah, you get all sorts of, and I think it may not be you. I think there's a collective. Well, there is a collective mind or group consensus, that we're conditioned by everything. But it might be something primal. I mean, I don't think it really bears analysis. It could be something way back. I don't know.
Well, now I'm feeling all apologetic about the poem I did yesterday. I was speaking too soft.
Ah, no, 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 but no. Um, no, but it wasn't performative, was it? I don't know. It didn't feel.
There was probably a degree of that. There was an intention to have a certain.
Okay,
So in that sense, it was performative, or at least
right.
a bit, at least. Yeah.
I think even if it was, this is something that's come to me. People will respond to what's behind it regardless. The sort of the vehicle, the voice will be there, but that they'll get it anyway, even if it appears to be a bit performative.
Mm.
In other words, the content rather the substance of it will be conveyed. I suspect I can't have interviewed anyone who's
Yeah.
listened
Yeah.
to it,
Well,
but
of
I
course, I
suspect
recognise you're never going to please everybody, but
no, that's another thing, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
one doesn't like to turn anybody off either.
Yeah,
Mm.
by looking
I
like the
think
devil in my case.
there's another
Sorry.
aspect of it that I've found is the timing, and especially with kind of pointings that people are doing, they need to leave a little bit of a gap after a couple of seconds or something, because if it's
Yeah,
it takes a bit of a delay for these things to sort of sink in,
Yeah.
and if they go straight on to the next thing, you missed it.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I did notice recently, and I don't remember the actual circumstances, but I think it might have been something you said, Tim, that there was a definite silence, moment of silence in this middle of the sentence that propelled me back into myself, back into thinking and back into a self-perception, back into a discovery of what my experience was. And that silence was really profound, even though it was only for like probably literally 1.5 seconds or something. It was,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I think it
Something
can
just
go
came to
too
mind for
far the other
me.
way as well. Sorry,
I was
didn't
going
want
to
to
say that
interrupt.
something just hit me. We were talking earlier about um, this notion of like what you need where you're at a certain point in your life, and that something that worked at one point that helped cause some shifts or growth no longer works, and now something else is appropriate. Um, I now recall that when I first started getting into meditation, it seemed like I did need that more performative voice to help shift me into like going in. But then at a certain point, I didn't want to have like two modes of experience where it's like I give up my normal life and then I have my meditative life. I wanted to have that more the the state that I experience in meditation to now come and bleed and be more of my normal experience. And
mm,
so when that happened, I no longer wanted to have that performative voice guiding me because I wanted it to feel like normal life.
mm,
Um, and so it was no longer pulling me in. I wanted to take my in back out
yeah,
in everyday conversation and interactions with people. And it had the reverse effect because I wanted to have the that state um, and the presence that I felt in meditation to be there when I was in conversation with people. And so having somebody who was guiding a meditation in a more conversational tone helped me practice
yeah.
in a more conversational setting than the be quiet, be still, and whisper. When that wasn't how I, get on Zoom calls at work and like, or
Mm.
talk to my family or interact with someone at the grocery store.
Yeah, and of course, it's an obvious uh, difficulty that there are everybody's at a different point in their evolution, if you like, and put it that way. So can't presume that everybody's the same. Mm.
I was just thinking of something to reminded me about the gaps in when I was listening to quite a lot of Rupa Spira meditations. Sometimes he'd really overdo the gaps, you know. So I found an app. I can't remember what it was called now. It's one of these audio apps, and you could actually either enlarge or reduce the gaps, the empty gaps, which was quite a handy thing. So I could take one of his 2-hour meditations and knock it down to about 20 minutes or something. Yeah, and still leave gaps, sufficient gaps. To give you some idea of someone, like he would have these 10-minute, he would say something and wait for 10 minutes before he said something else. And you think, has my computer gone wrong or something? What's happening? I suppose it was all right at live, in the live, because he did quite a lot of live meditations, in meetings and that sort of thing. It'd be all right because he'd still be sitting on the chair, so you know that nothing had broken.
It'd be funny if he fell off, wouldn't it? Sorry,
Well,
I had this image
off,
of him sort of nodding off from that stool. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hearing you speak again, Tim, reminded me of what Vince said a bit ago about Alan Watts. When I first
All right.
started listening to a lot of his recordings, um, it was strictly because of his voice and his accent that I was listening, and I could I could listen to him for hours just because of his accent.
Yeah, he had a lovely voice, and he was a raconteur, wasn't he? He was by his own admission a storyteller, or some sort of prankster type. You could probably get him round for dinner, and over a fair number of glasses of wine, he'd probably tell a few tales. That would have been really cool, because I think I mentioned he was born a mile from here, where we live. Not that's got anything to do with anything at all, other than
Other than you've got the same accent as him.
I could. He was a bit posher, actually.
Yeah, I would
better
agree with that.
educated. Yeah, it's a laugh. It's a laugh. Yeah. Alan Watts. I did a comedy. It was not a podcast. It was short stories, and one of the characters, I didn't write it, was like a play on Alan Watts. He was cast as in this thing as a pub philosopher, and in a pub that's not far from here, he would preside every Sunday, and he'd just like orate and bore. And in the narration it says, and he would just bore the arse off people. In the end, they'd all be like just going to the bar, ordering more drinks, desperate for another pint because he was off. He'd go on a long spiel. It was really good fun to do, but he didn't have the. Sorry, this guy was from the south, or Louisiana or something. He wasn't from England. He had a weird name, but it was good fun. I'm sorry about that digression. It just brought that back. It was a real laugh doing that. There you go.
Anyway, I think I'll leave this gap to as an opportunity to go and have some lunch.
A lunch gap, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rod.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. See you guys.
I'll give
Maybe
that book a
next
read.
Saturday.
I will look into that stuff, but I won't throw it out with the bathwater like I do with some stuff that you sent. Yeah, I will.
It's nice to have the user manual, isn't it, really?
I can't comment on that.
Okay.
It's useful for some sometimes. See you soon. Bye. Yeah.
See you guys. Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, I find my attention span or whatever is not adequate to read a 250-page book.
That did cross my mind in my case as well. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if it was science fiction, I might do it, but
yeah, sure. Yeah.
it
It would have to be a thing. Yeah. It would have to be a fiction book for me, probably something like science fiction. And even then, I might go to the audiobook version.
Yeah. Well, I might just feed the whole thing to AI and ask it to summarize it for me.
Yeah, I've done that before. It's like a confession, but yeah, I've done that before, right? But why not? I mean,
Sure.
actually, I might do that and tell Rod what it's
It'll
all
be
about. It's a
interesting.
spoiler.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it will be interesting.
Mm.
I had talking of AI. Sorry, Jeremy. It's like, where are you at? Do you want to share anything? Have you got any? I feel I've been wittering on like a
Oh, this
whatever.
is fine. I'm happy to share, but I have nothing uh that is feeling compelled to come out. So if I were
Okay,
to share anything, I'd be making it up on the fly, which maybe is how we always do anything, but
that's what I do.
I didn't I didn't come
No,
here for a specific purpose.
right. Well, I'll just say briefly then that
Just tell Tim, Jeremy, that it's okay if he rattles on.
yeah, that's what I need. I need permission.
Rattle on.
Not that I usually ask for it, but in this case, Vince has prompted me to. So yeah, so I used to be quite involved in the Course in Miracles, and I found it useful initially, and then it became a social thing and a lot of blah 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 personalities and that sort of thing. So I found a really good AI bot um, that is an ACIM, Course in Miracles bot, and I put as if I were a beginner at it, like no mind, beginner's mind. I put in questions that I might have asked then, and some that I still have kind of grey areas for me now. And it answered me in such an unbiased way and such a precision way, a clear way, that it was mind blowing. It was fantastic, and it kind of um, fits with a lot of what goes on here, and in some, not all of the Buddhist models. But without the Jesus, Holy Spirit stuff, which is fine by me, but it's not where I'm at. And about healing and mind body stuff, and how also the traps we get into, like feeling guilt if we didn't get a result. Because a lot of course students used to get into that. What am I doing wrong? You know, whatever. And it was just, I almost teared up because it was, this might be an exaggeration, but I was pleasantly surprised at the utter simplicity and clarity of it. Anyway, that's that. I can
Mm.
shut up now. Anton's back. I can shut up. Not because you're back, but as such. Yeah. Where are you from, Anton? Where do you live? Out of interest.
Israel, Tel Aviv.
Okay, right.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. I
yeah.
couldn't
And
guess your accent. Not
I,
that it's any, yeah.
I think it's Russian, yeah,
A
the
bit,
accent.
a bit.
Supposed to be.
And oh, is it?
uh,
Okay.
yes.
It's supposed to be Russian. Okay. You
I
better try
think
harder with the Nostrovia. You better try a few more.
this is
Пожалуйста.
the my mother language is Russian, then Hebrew,
Oh,
and
okay.
then
Понял,
English.
понял,
Yes, I
понял.
arrived to Israel when I was 8.
Oh,
So
okay. Okay. Sure. I started studying Russian because I like the sound of it. I might be in a minority, but it was too difficult, obviously. There you go.
but it's a beautiful language, very
I think
rich.
so.
I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. And some great authors and philosophers and so forth. Yeah.
Literature, okay. Yes,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
that's true.
Hmm. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
I will share. If I have been in a relationship until it's ended about month ago, and I would interested in maybe listening to perspective on uh, sexual drive in this process, like how you experienced it, and what was like maybe in the relationship. I had no reason to think about it. Like it was really relaxed. If it's happened, it's happened. It's nice. If not, it's okay. But one of the reasons is that it is always available, so it's not an issue. And when it's not, and somehow I don't feel drive to pick up as I did like couple years ago. There is no drive, no, I don't know, like if it feels not natural. And I'm usually solitary with myself, with exception for uh, being at work. So I don't have lots of connections. And so, yeah, what is your experience with this issue, if you had something to share about it?
Things have certainly changed for me, and it's well, I have I could not say whether it's got anything to do with waking up or whether it's got anything to do with getting old. Could be probably both involved. Yeah. Um, but I spent most of my life pretty actively sexual, and somewhere over the last few years it's drifted into it's no longer a drive like it was. It's now it can be no activity for weeks and it's not a problem. It just whereas once it was once well for most of my married life it's been kind of a daily activity, but now it would be happens a couple of times a month maybe. Or whatever. Oh, no, I don't know why. I have no idea why. Is it just because I'm getting old? I don't know. Maybe.
One thing in my experience that I'll share is um, years ago, like when the drive would arise, like when my wife and I would be going to bed, I would get so frustrated if she wasn't interested that particular time. Um, and my wife travels a lot for work now, and I find that like uh when I go to bed, it doesn't even cross my mind that it's not going to happen that night. Um, and then it's like there's uh something that it's like the notion of like diet and eating and health, like where people say don't buy the thing, don't buy the candy, don't buy the treat. If it's around, you're going to want it. The desire will arise, and it's going to be hard to uh not not consume the junk food. Um, I don't know where I'm going with this. I'll just mention um, another aspect of it is that now I find it so much more interesting to like let's say that we're going to bed and for some reason the urge, the desire arises in me and uh she's not in she's not interested. Um it's been such a uh it's been such good fuel for exploring that experience. It's like where is this coming from? Why is this so triggering? Where's the um where is this deep urge or push coming from? Like what the what the hell is going on? Why am I having such why have I had difficult times not following this through and and getting it not being able to not being able to fulfill it.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I've certainly contemplated that, and I came to a conclusion some time ago that the intensity of the drive, let's say when I was younger, had a lot to do with identification, had a lot to do with my view of myself.
Mm.
And it translates into, physical urges. Pretty, quite amazing. Yeah. Mm. So, what is the relationship between, how can I put it, say, very active urges, and ego? Yeah, it's interesting to consider what might be there. So it's a clear case of not being a distinction between the psychological and the physical. Yeah, they certainly run together in this area. Well, at least for me, though, that was the case. Yeah. So are these things answering your question, Anton? I don't know.
It just make me even more interested in really exploring this, not as a problem, but
Yeah.
as it's really interesting to see how differently I see it and react to it while I'm not in relationships, and
Yes.
when I was in relationships, and it moves interesting stuff to the surface. So it's just seeing and exploring. So from that way of seeing, it's good. Like it's
Mm.
new information that arising that I forgot that I have because of 2 years in relationship. I forgot that I had those issues before, and I had them. So it's not went anyway, but anywhere. But the relationship with it is a bit different right now. So it's interesting to explore and to see.
Mm. It's something we probably, I wouldn't say avoid, but probably at some level you could call it avoidance, that this stuff doesn't get discussed very much.
That's true.
Yeah.
And I think that everyone had some
Of course.
something to deal with in that area. And so, yeah.
That was the first thought that came to mind for me, is how much I felt a sense of appreciation when you asked this question, because it seems like such
Kind
a
of a taboo.
primal human thing that everybody experiences, and I don't know that I've ever heard it discussed other than it being mentioned, of like a sexual drive, but then that's all that's mentioned, and then you move on to other stuff, whether it's in a book or someone speaking to it.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
it's fascinating to explore it um, as a thing to investigate. And
Yeah, it's. I'm sorry I missed your sharing, Anton. I was voiding, but not avoiding. I've been sitting here without having a piss for like ages, and uh, so I'm sorry I didn't. Do you want to give an AI like synopsis, or would it not? Would it be
Uh,
lost?
it's just that I said that that it's interesting for me to see the changes that I have in my experience after that I'm not in relationship, like stuff that would not arise when I was in a relationship, have the opportunity to arise now. So from that way of seeing, it's good phenomena
Yeah, yeah. So
that
you've
I
got
can
some
see.
distance. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah.
yes.
My my story, and there are all stories, even that, like, so I've never been particularly, I have to say, confident sexually, should I say? I hadn't been, because I experienced, I wouldn't say it was trauma. It depends how you define trauma when I was in earlier relationships. So that kind of dented my confidence. And so, and I used to sort of see other guys, in this case in the pub, talking to women like they were shit. And this is when I was quite young, before all this sort of stuff, the misogyny thing was even mentioned. I don't think I wouldn't have known what the word meant then. You know, it's like, but I just thought this is horrible. This is really horrible. But I played the game because I wanted to belong. In as much as if a woman would come in and say, "Ah, oh, look at her," go, "Yeah," but think, "Yeah, she's attractive," but there's all this kind of, I don't know why. I wasn't a prude. It just fell off, you know. Anyway, so where are we now? Not now, but what was the next step? So that early experience kind of colored my involvement. I didn't have a massive amount of relationships, and the ones that I did later on, I think a couple of them were just really sweet. They were brief, but just like the person was really there. Yeah, we had sex, and it was just it was. I was going to say it didn't feel carnal. I mean, I hate to use these terms. I can't really think of another way of putting it. It was like a dance, and you hear all these adjectives. None of them suffice. I mean, and yeah, I've had sort of fantasies where they might have been what you call carnal or more, whatever a fantasy would bring up. And then, yeah, I got married and we had kids, and I think part of what's happened with me is to do with getting older. And it's also got to do with, again, a similar thing to that which I just mentioned about the way men were and can be with women, is that everything has become sexualized. And again, I'm not being a prude. It's in in your face or somewhere all the time. You know, everything has become performative and brand oriented and that sort of thing. And it gets too much. For me, you know, it's become, and I think the other thing is that it's not talked about in, I was going to say meetings like this. This is probably an exception, really. In so-called spiritual meetings, it's kind of whitewashed. It's kind of like you don't go there other than to say, um, depending on the school of thought, you can either you can use it as a vehicle to transcend, or there's the attraction and aversion. You know, don't get pulled, just be aware of it, or whatever that particular school prescribes. You know, you don't see it discussed in this more informal manner. You know, and I think it's really good to do that. Anyway, that's my story, roughly.
Yes, even on the internet, if you search like on all the with all the endless spirituality that is there, you will not find anything. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I
Like
think
people are
yeah, like
yes,
it's not considered or something. It's like a friend of mine who's into this sort of stuff, pretty much. He's also into men's groups, you know. And I saw
mhm.
the model for one of them, and I thought, I don't really feel drawn to that. I'm not sure why. What men's groups used to be in the 70s and stuff used to be places you go and bitch about your partner, frankly. That the ones I'd seen, almost like a comedy sketch. Yeah, yeah, like yeah. Let's go for a beer now. Now that we got all out of the way, let's go down for a beer or something. You know, it was like that, and it's progressed, but it's now more. I don't know. It's not. This is okay for me. I don't know.
For me, I even in the beginning, I had lots of ideas about living as a monk. I'm already living almost as a monk, like without restrictions, but it what's happening. Like I don't know, I'm not creating it. So and I had ideas doing it full on, but I don't think that it will happen. And there is lots of it can be avoidance and it can be like stuff like this. So yes, so it's a subject that right now arose in me, and yeah, I'm not doing anything with it, just
Just
looking at it.
noticing. Mm.
Yes.
Yeah, back in the early
Because
days. Yeah, sorry.
like there is still preference for like for silence and peace and stillness, so it's like disturbing me a bit, but it's my preferences, so it's interesting to see it.
I guess the thing is that you could in theory, I'm sure you've done this, experience what you're calling silence during sex or anything really. I'm sure you
Of
have done.
course, yes.
It's not a sort of either or, is it? And I don't think you're really saying that, are you? You said your
No,
preference is for silence and
but
peace, or
the desire is felt like like a bit like disturbance.
okay, yeah.
Like
I see what you
if
mean.
it's natural and it just happened, there is no really desire involved because you don't have to grab anything. It's
Right.
available. It's
Yeah.
okay. It's yeah. But when it's not here, so if you want it, you need to act to do something. And here I have a dissonance. I'm not interested in doing something
Pursuing. Yeah.
to have something that I don't have. So this is the dissonance that I'm having. That
Okay.
the desire is not felt natural. It felt like a disturbance a bit
Okay.
in the system. Yeah.
Mm.
So that takes me back to the early days of seeking, and I guess it came from particularly the Eastern views and Buddhism, or I don't know if it was Buddhism, but certainly it it was seen that celibacy, a monk-like existence, was was a good way to wake up. It was part of the deal for that back then. But that got lost somewhere along the line. That's no longer, that's that. But I can easily see how, because of the identification and the egoic aspect. I mean, what you referred to, Tim, was the blokes at the pub and the way they related to the women that came. I I was disturbed by that as a teenager, the way people talk to women, that it was aggression, it was dominance. It was very definitely a alpha male bullshit thing that was very common in our society.
Yeah.
And I always felt, as a teenager, I used to think I wouldn't treat them like that. I would, I would, but it never got me a woman. I mean, it didn't
Yeah.
work.
That's the thing. There's the rub, literally. Not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can easily see how, the involvement of the ego and of power and of aggression and alpha male attitudes and all of that could certainly get in the road of a spiritual path. And so consequently, I imagine that that's where the idea of celibacy had some value. Once a person committed to celibacy, they would remove that aspect from their development, so to speak.
Yes, but I'm not sure if you can like go all the way with some prohibitions. Like if you have like something, no, here I cannot go.
Yeah,
It's like I see it that it's all have to be open, and if the desire is not arising naturally, then it's good. But
yeah,
if naturally it happens, if you will cut it, you will not get anywhere. Like
yeah. That's right. It's fake. Yeah, yeah.
yes,
It's the illusion of control again, and the consequences of that become quite messy, eh? Yeah.
yes, and you can have them after a couple years. Like
Mm. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
you can restrict yourself, and it will just stay inside of you. So
Yeah.
I
So
don't see it
compression is
as a
not.
solution.
Yeah, that's.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
I have a friend who lives around the corner. He was, do they call it taking robes, a robe? When he became a Buddhist monk in a monastery in Scotland, Sami Ling. And he, I don't know if it was 1 or 2 years, was on retreat, what they call retreat. And he was celibate for at least a year. And he, I mean, what is he about? His early 60s now. And we don't, he's gay, but that doesn't mean anything. It's like we talk about this sort of stuff. And he said occasionally he gets, he's also, I mean, this is another thing that compounds it. He's got MS and it's reasonably advanced now. It wasn't then. But he said he's sometimes gets incredible urges just to find an attractive bloke and have sex, or as best he can. But then I think two things happened. He kind of logically, left brain wise, said that wouldn't be that possible. It wouldn't be that easy, and I go through the rigmarole of having to get an app or whatever he would do. But he said that more than that, he does notice it as just a desire, and he said it's quite strong, but then it passes. Um, but he said for the year or whatever it was that he was celibate officially, um, it was he found it relatively easy, except again, as he finds now, on a couple of occasions when it almost became overwhelming, and then he'd just use it as practice for his discipline in the Buddhist tradition, Tibetan, yeah, Tibet. But yeah, that's just one case. I mean, there must be loads of people who can't make it. I don't know what would happen. Would they get kicked out? I suppose. No, I don't know.
Who knows?
What do you, what do you do? I don't know.
For some reason, when you just mentioned the desire word, Tim, it made me think that um, like there've been times myself where that desire, that urge arises, and it's particularly when it unable to be met, and when I investigate it, it's like what is it about whatever is arising that I'm interpreting as this is a desire to me, like a
Yes, this is the
desire that is
practice that I'm
pursuing a
having right now. Yeah, it's
yeah,
just
like
a thought, but somehow I have like a resistance that said you have to decide, do you do something or not? Why? It's just a thought, like it's just an image, like every other thought or image, but somehow the processes is interesting. So,
Yeah. So
yes.
when you consider it as a desire, it has a weight that is somewhat mental. When you consider it as an urge, it has a weight that is more physical.
Yeah, it's usually come together. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just it's like a thought with a sensation that interpreted as the desire or
yes, yeah,
urge. The sensations a bit make it seem more
yeah,
real.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So like usually, or I'm staying with the sensation, or I'm seeing that it's a thought. But when it comes a lot, it's at some point it can bring resistance, like it's annoying. It's not really, but a
Mm.
thought it comes
Yeah,
that okay, how long I need
yeah,
to play this game, like stuff like
yeah.
this. but it's also a thought, and it's also a sensation. So nothing new. It's just a different form of the same thing.
And do you experience that it passes and ceases to be there without without
Yes, it's
any?
not all the time here, of course. Yeah, like anything else. But in like when I was in relationships, I had uh, another kind of things that I had in the relationship. We had to think about and to see as something that have to be done about something. So
Hmm,
it's not winning and not losing. It's just
yeah.
moving from one place to another place, and it's all the same. Even if I'm look at it, it's the same sensations. Like it's the same physical load that attached itself to different subjects.
Yes. Yeah.
So
I,
it's not really like even the sexuality. If I look at it in from this perspective, it's just a physical sense of identity that is still on a physical level is
Yeah. Yeah.
felt
sorry,
and
yeah. I was just wondering if about stories, and that if we didn't have a story, well, obviously about anything, what would happen? In other words, we get fantasies, or I do, something, about anything but that, and there must be some degree of story if the person is actually there, whoever it is, in situ, that that's taking place. That might seem like a ridiculous notion, but I wonder. I can't imagine. Do you see what I mean? There would what? How biological, and even that is a story. That's an urge. I mean,
well, it's I do experience sometimes that everything can just happen without any story, and it's very smooth and clear, and nothing really
right,
happening.
right, right.
And
What?
and I suppose that you can live like this, and I suppose that some people do, like 24 with no stories. I suppose it's possible, and like there can be stories that it's so light that it's not even considered as a story. It's like a cloud,
Yeah,
yeah, like
yeah, yeah,
just
yeah,
passing by, and then it's not a
yes,
problem.
yeah, sure, sure, yeah.
Yeah, so one aspect of it might be the repetitive fantasies that turn up, and how urgent are they, or how insistent are they?
Yeah. I've experienced periods of that when I got stuck on a theme, if you want to call it that, and then I realized how that was becoming embedded, like a hypnotic command would be.
Yes,
Very much,
it's a,
because it's got that potency, seeming. Again, that's the story behind it. Of the feeding aspect is heightened,
yes.
if
The
allowed to be.
fact that the fact that I'm thinking that it's an issue, it was it what giving it the fuel.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Otherwise, it's
It wouldn't be. Yeah,
yeah, just more thoughts and more sensations as usual.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
nothing,
It's the
nothing.
importance, the meaning, and the
Yes,
importance we give anything. Like that whole thing about meaning as well is, I find that so useful to notice how much importance or meaning we give things that are either trivial, or we don't attribute as much importance or meaning as to so-called bigger things where other people will. But it's all meaning, sort of as a layer, a filter. Yeah, I find that useful to remember a lot. at the moment, anyway. It's lunchtime, really, I think. How long? 11 to 12. I know it's only been 2 hours, isn't it?
Yeah,
Not that
yeah.
matters. It's not an official lunchtime. I'll just check to see if my wife needs to have lunch. I'll be back or not.
It can be also a bit like spiritual ideas and ideals that I still attach to. Well, if I'm started to think about it, like,
Hmm.
it's interesting to explore, yeah. Like
Hmm.
how things should be when you're fully liberated, yeah, like stuff like this.
Yeah.
I think that I had a thought earlier in this conversation about um, I think Tim or one of you was talking about like the experience of participating in different groups over time and different facilitators and teachers. Um, Early in my path, um, my only means of getting content about awakening was books. And it had this effect of putting people who had experienced some form of awakening up on this pedestal, um, and having groups like this where people have had different experiences of it and hearing them describe. I don't need to be so vague. Vince, hearing you describe what your experience is like right now is so much more relatable and feels accessible, even if I can't directly relate to what you're describing. Um, it feels less impossible. It feels less, oh, I'm never gonna I'm never going to experience that, or I don't feel that now, and um, any sort of frustration or things like that come with it. But um, uh, hearing directly from people who have had different levels of this awakening experience has been so valuable, and it makes it somewhat it makes it so much less, I don't know, like mysterious or
Branded.
Yeah, that's a
yeah.
good word. Branded. This. Sorry, go on, Jeremy. Go.
That's enough.
Now, this is exactly the same reason I like this. It's very straightforward. People seem to feel safe sharing authentically, and the experience you had with reading, I was kind of better off reading. It's when I came to the types, and I stress the types of groups that I attended, that I started getting problems, because usually it was a one-way street between the guy, and it usually was a guy up there, telling you how it was and how we assumed it should or could be, if only we were like that guy. Or it would be what really amounted to a discussion group of peers arguing about the finer points of whatever document or book we'd been reading. When I say arguing, they were discussions that sometimes became disagreements. And so it was kind of, and it was all that was here. It was head level stuff for me. It's only when I started getting into just past what I call my Advaita stage, when they would bring in things like from Kashmir Shaivism, like the feeling stuff and tantric stuff, you know. But I started getting in touch with my feelings, and that changed everything for me. It kept me away to some degree from my head, and increasingly so, which is why I like it when Vince usually directs people to their body. What are you feeling now? But literally, what is the sensation? Is there a sensation in your body? That sort of thing. I found invaluable. Yeah. But I think in my imagination, and I can't know how true this could even be, but if I'd like to think that if there were more groups that were similar to this, all right, they wouldn't have a Vince necessarily, but the kind of informal peer level thing, but without it getting stuck here and without I think it would need someone, someone as a kind of whatever role they call it, facilitator, overseer. I don't know what the word would be, but I think this is priceless, invaluable. Sorry, priceless. Yeah,
Mm.
for me.
You just reminded me of some of the moments that have been most impactful or insightful to me is when I've read or like earlier in my actually maybe it's not even just like the book, but what you were describing where it's like there's this distance between where you are and where this awakened being is. Um, and that relationship. And that I feel like that person has in an attempt to try to sell what they're selling, they paint it in such a rosy picture that they're not sharing their vulnerability of what their experience is like.
Yeah,
And so, Vince, there's been times where you've shared like stories where anger has arisen. Um, and I'm like, oh, okay, so that those sensations still arise. Those things still happen. Um, and so it's not like this fantastical world where none of the things that that I experience are going to happen anymore. Like, oh, it's almost like I had this expectation that I would never like that the maybe to put it this way, that for suffering to go away, I had this fantasy that that meant all of the things that I believed were causing suffering would no longer happen. That those problems wouldn't occur anymore versus um, changing my relationship and interpretation of those same things happening, but there's the charge is just not there anymore.
Yeah. Well, maybe they won't happen when I wake up. I have no
yeah,
idea about that. That's when Anton said before about being fully awake, I burst into laughter because I have no idea. I don't know what that is. You know, will I ever get there? I don't know. I have no idea. Yeah.
you could look. You could look in the manual that Rod. I'll look in the manual and let you know what it says in
Oh,
my
okay.
manual. I don't know what he sent you, but it structures it like that. And I can't. You see, this is something that I did get from A Course in Miracles. It's not just its teaching, but it's like, people talk about NDEs and the afterlife and that sort of thing. And I used to be absolutely fascinated by that sort of thing because the spiritual church was my spiritualist church was my entree into all this when I was 16. But that's another tale. Um, there and a lot of traditions have their afterlife model, don't they? So you got the bardos in Buddhism, you get all sorts of and realms and all this sort of thing. They can't not be another dream. Surely that if this is Maya, a dream, then there has to be, unless there's true extinction, which nirvana is supposed to be, there would have to be a dreamer dreaming these realms up, or a group of dreamers, or whatever it is. So it's like I I think it was for me easy to bullshit myself and overestimate where I was actually at on this never-ending apparent journey. Just imagine the amount of conditioning that you'd have to have dropped to just, I mean, you couldn't exist as in any form. Do you see what I mean? What I'm
Mm.
pointing at? It's like,
Absolutely, yeah.
so, which is why I'm much happier not reading a manual and just saying, okay, if this is as good as it gets, and there must be more uh, opening or whatever you want to call it. That's pretty good compared to when I was getting pissed every day, drunk every day.
Yeah,
No, I mean like, vastly. This
yeah,
is going back. This
yeah.
is going back some decades and a bit.
Mm,
But that wasn't fun for more than a pint at a time, and even that wasn't fun. So
mm,
and then I'm not as reactive. And these were some of the things that I think Rod was pointing to, that he looked, that they were kind of signposts for him, that at least he got that out of Scientology, which we were talking about. But it could be any system that offers this. But this is that's how I look at things now. And it's made me incredibly grateful, not as a practice. You say, keep a gratitude journal. Sometimes I just think, this is amazing. I can't
mm,
believe, like with simple things. And particularly, actually, I have to say, when I've got peers and friends who just seem of my age group, who just like frankly moan. I'm sorry to say it. I love them dearly, but they just moan, and they've got more. One guy's got an F-type Jag. He's reliving his life when it was the 70s. He's not happy, and
mm.
he's been to our groups. The irony is, and I said, Chris, you know this stuff. He says, yeah, but in my case is the big one. Like, you don't know. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen and all that. So, as the song goes, but
Yeah, yeah.
it makes me feel grateful. And it also makes me realize how I really wanted to help people but couldn't. And that I now know that I had mixed motives. If I did, I wanted to be thanked for it. Not necessarily directly, but have a sense that I, Tim, the separate me, had facilitated someone else's experience. That was quite a big one, validation. And that's, as far as I know, it's not here now. If it is, I'm open to it coming up. And sorry, where was it going with it? Yeah. So the point is that this is good enough. This approach, if you want to call it an approach, seems to be, like you were saying, Jeremy, it's really, I'm paraphrasing, really down to earth and accessible, that sort of thing, and kind of common sense in a way. Anyway,
Mm.
it's not lunchtime. I got some biscuits.
Yeah, you could write the preface to the books for me. Yeah.
I don't know. You got AI. Don't need me. I'd be even more obsolete then. I'm happy to do I hate this term endorsement, but like I'll say something. I'm happy to do that for sure. if you want. Because I know you left a blank, didn't you?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
was waiting for someone to offer, but as soon as how they haven't, I'll
Well,
put the
is
word
this
out.
like you get? Is this like you get volunteered in the army? You don't volunteer, you get volunteered.
Yeah.
You know, or any of the services. Yeah. Okay. I'll make a note. Note to self. After lunch. No.
Yeah.
But yeah, sure. Seriously, yeah. I'd be happy to. Um, I think humor's I think humor is great. If my wife and I hadn't got a similar sense of humor, I don't know what would have happened. Generally, I can't know. I mean, but I think humor is lacking in a lot of these groups as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
It really
People
is. You know, it's
themselves
like really
prepare.
a bit in earnest, and don't say anything that's a bit left field, you know, from left field.
You just made me think of Tim, like in the concept of the gap between something in your experience and your reaction to it. Um, I guess I have the story that like things that we laugh at are like uncontrollable. You cannot help but laugh at something, even if it's
Yeah,
something that you like. There's this interpretation or judgment that like, oh, I shouldn't be laughing at this
exactly.
scenario because
Uh,
it's insensitive or whatever it might be.
and
I've
yeah,
never investigated uh, that laugh reaction to my experience.
yeah,
I've
it's
looked at it a lot actually, and I've come
yeah,
to the conclusion that it's the surprise, it's the discovery that we find humorous. So the stand-up comedian will take you down a particular road, and then all of a sudden he'll do a 90-degree turn and throw you into a different reality, and that's what's funny. It's that surprise, that discovery scene. Yeah.
and it's the absurd as well, isn't it? It's like remember Lenny Bruce? Anyone remember Lenny Bruce, the
Yeah.
American comedian? There's a film with starring Dustin Hoffman as Lenny, and he used to. It was a time when it was, I guess, it was the Beat era, right? And he used to just show up at clubs, and he'd do. He had his own shtick, and he'd sort of he'd say stuff like really, he'd be doing his routine. He'd say, I don't know if I can say it. Well, whoever listens to this, ladies, does your husband suck your cock? Like he'd say stuff like that. I'm sorry, you can edit that out. But and it like threw people so much, and they get the police and stuff like that. But he was kind of like the taboo was being broken. And Alan Watts is great. He's got a book about it's called The Taboo of Something. But he was I don't know if he was that direct in that way. But it was just like it was the surprise. That's the whole point. It was the shock or the surprise because he'd be doing this normal nightclub routine, and like, sir, does it? He'd go up to the table and say, yeah, does your wife or whatever? Right, that's enough of that.
Yeah, yeah, something unexpected. Yeah.
Yeah, the unexpected. Yeah, I'm sorry about the extreme example. You might edit that out, but it's always stuck with me. And
Well, I'm not going to
I
edit
got
it. You can stay there.
okay. I've got another joke then. If no,
Yeah.
it's even worse than that one.
So laughter is the I think the only appropriate response to what's happening to us here. Like, laughter is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Uh,
How can you really say about it anything?
Yeah.
I mean, just even in any situation, but if you look at the political situation, we've got some really nutty people involved. I mean, you shouldn't laugh in at certain things, but
Yeah,
like Jeremy was
yes, of
saying,
course.
you find yourself because it's so utterly
Inside,
fucking
you can
absurd.
laugh.
Inside you can laugh. Yeah. 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 I mean, a lot of humor now is policed, isn't it? Really, it's kind of sanitized more, isn't it? Don't you think? I mean, and it's boring. Most of the modern comedians are really. You don't get the. I don't know. There's some. Most of the really funny ones are American, actually. Stand-ups. Richard Pryor.
Quite strangely, I find English humour much funnier than American humour. And that's generalising to a great extent, but you know,
Yeah, I do in a way. Like I used to like the sitcoms like Python, and although that is more absurdist humor, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, but
But
that's good.
Faulty Towers was so typically English or British, and anyway, but they've had to clean that up too now.
Yeah, that was very dry humour, that wasn't it?
It was
Yeah,
very dry, yeah, but
and I
they
must
there's
say I
certain
quite like black humour as well.
yeah, I do too. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that if we just when the mind is in a more active state, it's like a stand-up performance anyway. So
Yeah,
there is
it's
always
really
something to laugh at. And
yeah.
I find myself a lot just like walking in the street and like seeing some fat and I just laugh. Like it's
Yeah,
really
same.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our family, we've always taken the piss A out of each other and B other people, but often not to their faces. So we're used to it. And when people come here and we do it, they sort of look a bit puzzled unless they know us. We're always having a bit of a dig, and it's really quite healthy. You know, I mean, I get mocked from here to New Year. You know, it's like, and it's just, it is really funny.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a self-deprecating humour that certain countries are more known for.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's a bit of a Brit thing, that isn't it?
yeah, 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 very Aussie too. Yeah,
Is it? Oh, right. Okay.
for sure. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah.
Whereas certain countries, if we generalise, certain countries seem to have no sense of humour, like the Germans. You know, should I not say that?
How
Should
did
I? But,
uh,
yeah,
uh,
that's my
too
perception.
late now? You
Anyway,
can't
yeah.
edit
I'm-
if you edit that out, you'll have to edit my bit out as well. But you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. Having said that,
That's funny in itself, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. All
What
right.
about
Well, go on.
yeah? What about Russian? Russians have got a good sense of humor, haven't they, Anton?
Yeah, it's
Because of the
usually
struggles, you know.
usually it's a bit like how to say, there is lots of humor,
Yeah,
intellectual humor, and also lots of like cynicism,
yeah. There is
like
cynicism in it. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
humor
uh,
with a bit aggression, you know, like
yeah.
with
With a bit of vodka. Yeah,
Shall
but
I
a
go
lot,
to, as
lot of
black
vodka.
humor? Is it black humor?
black humor is, yeah, it's very common.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes. I I always liked black humor. I think that all people that really connect, that love black humor, they are all spiritual, I think. I don't know, because you're more like open to laugh about everything, and I have an idea like this. I don't know.
Mm.
Yeah.
We've certainly covered a few topics tonight, haven't we?
You read my mind. I've just been thinking that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's
yeah.
it's the least obviously spiritual kind of thing. No, well, no. How can I say that? But you know what I mean. We've been just chatting, really. But it's for me, it's great. You know.
Well, just before we wind up, it's midnight here.
Oh
But
God.
before we wind up, tell me how is this stuff spiritual at all? I don't get that. I can't see it. It's
Yeah.
human, you
Yeah.
know?
I was just thinking about the image of a spiritual meeting.
Yeah. So what is spiritual?
Again, I'm generalizing, but yeah.
What would you call spiritual? I don't, is it,
No, you're right. Yeah.
what is
It's the.
spiritual? I don't know.
Uh, I wish we could find another word for that. I
Yeah.
really do, because it's become like the S word, like the F word or the C word. Really, it has. It's like a dirty word now. I don't want to say to people, "I'm into spirituality." You know?
Yeah.
Oh no, are you? Fuck off. Really? Basically, are you one of them? Yeah.
What
I
isness? I don't know. It's
yeah. I'm in
like
the isness
the
business
only
because it's
spirituality
become a
is the
business.
is
Is
the
yeah,
isness business. Yes, isness
yeah.
business.
The isness
Like
business. It's big business, baby. Yeah.
It's one of the biggest difficulty my wife has when somebody says, "What's these groups that Vince does?" And she goes, I don't know.
Didn't you say worse than that at some point? I
Well,
saw a load of shit or something.
yeah, she's certainly related to him like that.
Yeah. Oh wow.
But even there's a sense of humor in her with that because she says it's a total load of shit, but it's not at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's quite ready to mock. She's as I
That's
was
fair.
leaving this, as I was coming into the group tonight, she was saying to me, it's all story.
Oh, I've heard that. Yeah, I get that sort of thing. Yeah. Well, I
Uh,
used to get, is it true? You know, when I was into
yeah,
inquiry, so,
yeah.
is it true? Like a Byron Katie thing. Yeah, it is true. Like that.
All right, well, fuck off. I'm going to bed.
Yeah. Fuck off, Vince. Have a good fucking sleep, mate.
Yeah.
See you soon. Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.